Okay, let's begin. First of all, anyone has any question about previous topics? No?
I'm wondering about eski you said that it was 7 bits, so there are 127 commands, right?
128, yes.
It's
128-dən çünki 0 da var axı. 0 böyüklükdə daxildə 127. Oxşu 128-dən sıfırla başlayıram mən.
Mesela kesin bu orada ne yazmış gibi insan an falan an bile olsun yani onun için ne yazıyor?
Or, if I don't, I think it was this. Python lesson 2.5. Or, just because you mentioned, we also have the reverse of it. For example, we have, I think this is CHR, which means char character. It's just the reverse of it. I don't know why it's called ORD, because it doesn't make sense. Maybe it gives order of something. For example, char code will be more clarifying way of. For example, in JavaScript, there is actually a function called char code. So you know that character code of this character is 97. But in Python, it's less obvious what this function does because of function name. Okay, so last lecture we learned about data types. Also, we learned about a little bit about comparison operators, also about conditional statements, if and else. This lecture, we will start with, we will talk more about comparison operators. Actually, they are easy. Like you already know, we already compared, for example, if D is greater than 0, you know that it's greater than sign. It will return true or false depending on the result of this condition. So comparison, we call them comparison operators, and they always return a Boolean value, okay? The result will always be bool, nothing else. Boolean is true or false, as we already know it. And we have, we can use a lot of comparison operators, like, for example, this one, you know, this means equals. If 5 equals to 5, it will return true, else it will return false. We also have this exclamation mark and equals. This means not equals. So it will return false because they are equal, actually. We also have greater than sign. We also have less than, but we also have like greater than and equals. It will return true if the left side is greater or equals. In this case, it will return true because it's not greater than 5, but it equals to 5. The same is true for less than or equals. So 5 is not less than 5, but it equals to 5. That's why it will give us the true. Okay, so most of the time what we do is we sometimes combine these operations with some logical operators. For example, I might have a number. For example, let's also look. Well, for example, a student, I don't know, a user might have an age. For example, it's 17. I want to print some message depending on his age. Maybe not age. Let's call about hour. Let's say it's hour of a day. Okay, hour of the day. I will print different message depending on this number. It might be, for example, morning. For example, it's 9. If it's morning, I want to say the user good morning. If this is, I don't know, 14, I will say good afternoon, maybe. If this is, I don't know, 20, I will say good evening. Okay, it's obvious. And in these conditions, I will have to compare this number to some numbers. I will also have to join them. For example, the condition 1 will be, let's say, if this, let's call this x, is greater than, for example, 7, and it is less than, I don't know, maybe 13, it means it's good morning. Okay. The other condition, maybe if it is greater than 13, okay, and if it is less than maybe, I don't know, 17, then we say good afternoon. And on other case, for example, if it is greater than 17 and less than, I don't know, 22, then we will say, I don't know, maybe 23, okay. Good evening. Okay, this condition. So in here, we will have to join these conditions with a logical, we call this AND logical operator, okay? I want to know if this number is greater than 7 and this is less than 13. I want to just check the range. If this number is between 7 and 13, okay? For this, for example, in mathematics, we usually write like this. But in Python, you cannot write like this. It is actually, it won't give you any error if you do this, I believe. But the correct version to check this range is this one. We have one operator here. And this will return me true or false. The right side will also return me true or false. And this AND operator will return true or false depending on the left and right side. And let's see what happens if we use this AND. Okay. I will print true and true. I will also print true and false. I will also print false and true. Let's print also false and false. So as you already said, we call this AND a logical operator. Logical operator has two sides, and both of the sides should be Boolean, so we can get a meaning from it. AND operator will give us true if and only if both sides are true. Let me print this. You will see that first gives me true, all of the others will give me false. Because this AND logical operator will give me true if and only if both sides are true. Okay. Like I can't think of any real life examples. For example, I can say it is raining and it's morning, for example. If it's raining, also it's morning, then the whole statement is true. For example, I say it is raining, and if it is a morning, it's morning, but if it's not raining, then the whole statement becomes false. Okay. I hope it is clear. So the AND operator will give us true if and only if both sides are true. If you see any false on any side, the result will be false. This is how AND operator works. We also have OR operator. We call this like OR. OR is more like forgiving. OR will give you true if any of sides is true. For example, here I have true, it will give me true. Here it will give me true because I have true on the left side. Here it will also give me true because I have true on the right side. only this one, it will give me false because both sides are false. For example, maybe someone sends you to the market and says, buy me a milk if, I don't know, if this is Azer Süt or I don't know, Milla, or this is or statement. You buy the milk, either you find Azer Süt or Milla, okay? Like if they say you and, if you see that both of them are there, you I don't know what happens in this case, but yeah, or condition works like this. If I print this, you will see that it will give me true on all cases where we have true. But when we have both sides are true, then it will give me, when we have both sides false, the result will be false. Okay. So we have three logical operators. One is and, the other is on, or, and this last one is not. Not is very, very easy. It will give you false if you give it true. Like it will negate the, so like it will not will negate the result. For example, not true, not false. I guess you already know the answer. Not true is false, not false is true. Okay. Is this clear? Anyone? Questions? No. If we want to write, Murat, did you watch the recording of the last lecture or?
Yeah.
Okay. Have any questions?
Most of them.
Okay. Okay, so we know how logical operators work, and will only return true if we have both sides are true, or will only return false if both sides are false. And not is very simple. It will negate the whatever you give it to you. Okay, you give it to you. Let's write this condition. For example, we are given hour of the day and we want to print this. Print good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or if the number is too high or too low, I don't know, we might print something else. Okay, I write if hour of the day is greater than 7 and hour of the day is less than 13. Okay, it means that it is morning. So we print good morning, sunshine. So we have the second condition. If it is greater than 13, hour of the day is greater than 13, and it is less than 17. Good afternoon, mate. And the last condition, we'll also have else because it might be, for example, negative. I don't know. We won't handle that case. If hour of the day is greater than 17 and as hour of the day is less than 23, we will have like good evening. Good evening. Okay. And else, if you don't know, if any of this case doesn't match, we'll print go ahead. Just to check this, let's also get this number from a user, maybe the person who uses our program. In Python, we have a function called input. I can call this input function. I can write enter hour of the day. Okay. If I run this function, program will ask me for input. As you see, its program still running and waits for my input because I called this input function. I can enter, maybe let's enter 8. I'm expecting an error, but let's wait. So we have error. I want you to read this error and maybe you can guess what went wrong. So greater than operator, we cannot compare string and int. So this is basically what it says. This is what it says. And it shows me that lesson 2 pi line 5. Let's see. It shows me that in line 5 we are trying to compare string and integer. Okay. In line 5 here I compare string and integer. Which side is string?
Out of the day.
Yeah. And what can we understand from it? This function always return me string. It will give me string because user is not limited to entering numbers. Like I can enter something like this. For this reason, it will always give me string. If you're using Visual Studio Code, just hover over the function. You will see that you see this. This means that it returns string. It will always return you string. And I don't know if the prompt string, if given, if printed standard output, trailing new line before the reading input and stuff. Read a string from standard input. The trailing new line is stripped. Okay. So what we need to do, we need to convert it to an integer. If we cannot convert it to integer because user entered some gibberish, it's okay. We don't handle this case, but let's check. If user enters 8, we say good morning sunshine, because maybe I can split this. No, not like this. I can split this like it. Anyone knows how to split it? Show open editor. Okay. Okay, I don't know how to do this. Okay. So I entered 8. We get a string 8 from input. We converted to integer and it became an integer 8. Okay, 8. Then we come here, we check hour of the day is 8 and 8 is greater than 7. So the result is the left side is true. Okay, 8 is greater than 7. And we have and 8 is less than 13, right? So it's also true. And we said that when we use AND operator, if both sides are true, we will get true. So this whole statement resolves to true because 8 is greater than 7 and 8 is less than 13. That's why we entered this condition. We print good morning sunshine. Okay, now a question to you. What happens if I enter 13? Like this. So just look at the code and maybe you can guess what will happen. Actually, why you say that?
Certain is not less than 13.
Okay.
Must be equal.
Yeah, so if 13 is not less than 13, it will be false. So we will ignore this case and we check the later case. 13 is not also greater than 13, so this is also false. And 13 is not also greater than 17. This is also false. So this will be go to hell. Okay. Is this expected behavior? Is this how it should be? Maybe. What will you do to fix this?
You have the code.
Yes. 13, like it depends on what I consider afternoon. Maybe if the hour is 13, I want to say good morning sunshine, I will add equals here. If I want to say good afternoon mate, I will add equals here. Okay. And if I enter 13 now, 13 is not less than 7. No, it's greater than 7. It's true. Okay, 13 is greater than 7. It's true. And 13 is not less than 7. It's false. So the result is false. So we ignore this first case. We check the second case. In the second case, 13 is not greater than 7, but it equals to 7. No, it equals to 13. And the first part resolves to true, and the second part will also resolve to true because 13 is less than 17. So the true and true will give me true. Okay. So we will have to do the same thing with 17 because if 17 is not here and if 17 is not here, it will give me go to hell. So let's also include 17 here. Also, we need to include 23 because if this is not included, we will have like go to hell because we didn't match this case. We didn't match this case either. We didn't match this case because like, okay, 23 is greater than 17, but 23 is not less than 23. But 23 is less than or equals to 23. If I enter 23, it will give me good evening. If I enter, I don't know, some large number, it will give me go to hell because hour of the day cannot be like between this. I can also add some other check in front of this. For example, I don't know, if this is greater than 0 and less than 23, I say that it's a valid hour, but else I will say that it's not valid. We can also check this. Okay, is this clear?
That's one question. What if we manage to both cases more than after equals less than or equal, bigger than or equal? Will it be equal?
If we match both cases, actually, if I match this case, like it won't continue checking the later case. If the first is met, then we won't continue to the next one. Okay.
I have a question. I mean, when you enter the terminal, it says it asks you choose the time, choose the hour. How does it happen? Why it says to us choose the time? Like you didn't write anything that's
Yeah, I wrote this function.
enter the time.
Yes. Actually, yes, this input function. Like, let me just write. Where is this? Okay. Actually, we have a program, right? We write a Python program. When we run a program, it is called a process. Process is just a running program. Okay, and the process have three channels. They call this channels. Okay, let's call this a process, a running program. For example, Google, I don't know, Mozilla Firefox is a process right now because it's currently running. If I close this, if it stop running, and process will stop. Okay, so the process is a running program, and process has three channels to communicate with other processes, for example. So it has std in, it's called standard input. We have std out, it's called standard output. We also have std-err, it's called standard error. So process has these three channels. std in, so standard input is usually used to get some input into your process. std out when you want to output something. So std error is when you want to like write your error. Like if I'm a process I will use these channels. For example, I will use std in to get input. I will use std out to output something, and I will use std error to say my complaints that this doesn't work, for example. So whenever I print, what happens? This string will be sent to standard output. That's why I see this on the screen when I print something. Whenever I want to read something, and I call this function, and this function, once I don't know, operating system does something, and it reads some text from standard input, and it assigns the value to this variable. And if error happens, for example, no, this is not error. If this error happens, then it goes to std error, standard error. These are just some historical names, but this is true for every process like that. Doesn't matter the programming language. You might write, I don't know, C++, C, Java, I don't know, any programming language. It's always true for any of them. You will get input from std in, you will output to std out, and you will show your errors on std error. Okay. So in Python we used print std out. We use input function for std in. Okay. I don't know if there is a direct way to write error to std out error, but it's enough to know only this. We print, we output something, we call input function, we get some input. I would call this from standard in to this input function. Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, let's continue. We already know comparison logical operators. We recapped conditional statements. We will return to this one. Okay, let's talk about iterative statements and do something with them. Okay. So we already hopefully can work with conditional statements. But sometimes we want to do something repeatedly. For example, let's say I am given a number and I want to check if a number is prime number or not. You know what's prime number, right? Prime number is a number that is divisible by 1 and by itself. It's not divisible by 2 or 4 or anything between. Okay. So if I want to check this, for example, I want to check if this is divisible by 1 and itself. I want to make sure that it is not divisible by any other number. So I will check, is it divisible by 2? Is it divisible by 3? Is it divisible by 4? Is it divisible by 5? I have to check all these cases. This is some repeated case that I don't want to do all of them by hand. So I want to just write some code and repeat this case. For these operations, we use iterative statements. So if, else, if, elif, I don't know, this one is called conditional statement because we write some conditions. We also have iterative statements. Iterative statements does something repeatedly. Let me just remove this for now. Let's say I have a number x, which is, I don't know, 0. If this number is less than 0, I don't know, less than 13, let's say, I print this number and I add 1 to this number. If I, okay, let's remove this and print number at the bottom. Okay. What's the result here?
less than or equal.
It's just less than. Is it not visible? Maybe.
Well, error.
No, why error?
Just 0, 1.
Just one, yes, one. Yeah, I checked. Number is 0. Is 0 less than 13? Yes. I add 1 to number. Okay, it's 1. And I just print 1. Okay. It's very easy. So it is just conditional statement. What if I want to do it repeatedly? I want to check if this is less than 13, I will add 1. I want to check it again. If it's less than 13, I will add another 1. I want to check again. If it's less than 13, I will add another 1 until if it reaches 13. So I want to do this statement. What it does is just adds 1. I want to do this while number is less than 13. To do this, actually, it's very easy. I will just write while, and it will keep doing it while this condition is true. And what will be result at the end? You might want to guess.
Also 1.
13.
I think all the numbers to 13.
No, at last, I start from 0. I add 1 to it, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I print number at last. And the result is what is 13.
Oh, it's only lost.
Yeah, actually, this is like this. For example, if I print number inside this while loop, it will repeat this process because print statement is inside this loop. Okay, it will check and execute this, check, execute, check, execute, like this. So I will see all the numbers except 13. But if I print the number at last, like this happens when it finished. Okay, let's try to, I don't know, dry run. Okay, I'm writing some comments here, how it works. So my number is 0, okay? And I check number is less than 13. Number is 0. Is number less than 13? Yes, right. 0 is less than 13. Maybe write it like this. This okay. Okay. My number is 0. Is this less than 13? Yes. So I add 1 to it. It's now 1. So it will check again. Because I wrote this while, its keyword, while keyword, I wrote that do this while number is less than 13. So it will repeat checking this again and again. So is 1 less than 13? Yes. So I add another 1 to it. So, and check again. Is 2 less than 13? Yes. Add another 1 to it. Is 3 less than 13? Yes. Add another 1 to it. Like I check it and I execute this. I check it and I execute this. I check it, execute this. So 5 is also less than 13, like 6 is also less than 13, 7 is also less than 13, 8 is also less than 13, 9 is also less than 13, 10 is also less than 13, 11 also less than 13, 12 also less than 13, and at last, so let's stay here. I am right now at 12, and I check, is 12 less than 13? Yes. So I add 1 to it. So next time when I check, is 13 less than 13? False. So the loop stops. This loop happens as long as this condition is true. This condition needs to be true for this loop to continue, because we say that while this is true, just do this. is this clear why, like when this loop finishes, at last my number is 13. This is why, because my number was 13. I checked that this number is 13 is not less than 13. That's why I didn't execute this condition. I just stopped the loop. I didn't execute this code. I stopped the loop. And at the end, I printed this number. If I also want to like add 1 to 13, maybe I can also add this. At last, it will be like this. For example, when it is 13, we will check that 13 is not less than 13, but it equals to 13. So I will add another one. And in this case, I will, like 14 is not less than, neither equal to 13. For example, it will be 14. Okay. 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 Just to check it, I can move my print statement inside the loop. So what loop does? Checks this condition, execute this code. Check this condition, execute this code. Check this condition, execute this code. Okay. When I print this, when I run this function like this, it will be like print 0. Okay. Check this condition, print 0. Okay. Check this condition, print 1. Also adds 1. Like we print, then add 1. Print, add 1. Print, add 1. Print, add 1. Yeah.
What, okay, in this case, when we're putting the print number, and if you select place between them, it gives us the last number, it's 13. But what will happen if you put that print number after add 1? Yes, it will give 14.
Yes, because like let's see, if I print it before adding 1, I will have the odd number. Like for example, I will print 0 and then add 1 to it.
Yeah.
But if I do it like this, I will add 1 to 0 and then I print 1. Okay, it's just, for example, the previous one I start with 0 and end with 13. In here, I will start with 1 and end with 14 because I add 1, then I print it. Okay, and one question. What if I completely remove this line? I just want to print this number. Just remember what while loop does is constantly checks and prints, checks and prints, checks and prints. 0 is less than 13, right? Will it ever be greater than 13? Because before I was adding 1 to it, but now I'm not adding 1 to it. So this number will always be less than 13. There is no anything I'm doing here. I'm just printing this number. So what will happen is let's run this function. I hope my computer. This condition will always be true. So I will have something like this. It doesn't stop, you see. Okay. If I can use Command Control C to stop this. But yeah, you see my scroll here. Like it didn't even end because like it just checks and prints, and just because this condition is always true, this is called infinite loop. You just keep doing it without exiting. So you need to be careful with while loops. So you need to be careful that this condition should be false sometime later. If this condition is always true, then this loop will never exit. Loop will continue just doing whatever you say it to do. And sometimes you can see people write something like this, for example, while true. It's just same as before because the previous condition was always true. So this is same. It will print me something. While true. While true means just keep doing it. Don't continue. I mean, don't exit. Keep doing it. Any questions? And actually, this while true might sometimes be useful. For example, let's see how can we use it. For example, I add, let's get user input. Maybe we get a name from user, okay? I call my input function inside this loop. So it will keep asking me my name, for example. What is your name? Okay. Let's see what happens. While true, it means infinitely, I will ask the user to, what is your name? What is your name? What's your name? What's your name? I enter, for example, Okan. What's your name? I enter, I don't know, Murad. What's your name? It will never stop. I enter my name, it asks again. I enter my name, it's asks again. Okay, of course you can stop such processes with Control C. It's called keyboard interrupt because I pressed Control C, but it's okay to do it like this. But maybe for some time I want to stop the condition programmatically, not with the keyboard, but programmatically. For example, if user if user writes exit, you know some message, like for example, Azercell sends you some message and you send stop to unsubscribe from some, I don't know, some subscription. And I can also write something like this. For example, if name is stop and it should be uppercase maybe. If they write lowercase, I won't consider it. If name is stop, maybe if name is exit, I don't know. Just break. Break means that just stop the loop immediately. Don't do anything else. Stop the loop. Okay. If I write exit, it will immediately stop. Okay. So break will always work with loops, and break will always just stop this loop immediately. We can also write something interesting. For example, we ask user for maybe username and password. We ask it if and only if it's correct. If the username and password is not correct, we keep asking it again and again. Okay. Let's say username. Let's write something like username and password equals to password, and if, let's say, username equals to, I don't know, Bala Ali, and password equals to Rashad, then break. No, just let's print welcome, welcome Shair, and else we will write, wait a minute, not Bala Ali. Okay, something like this. If this username and password is something I expect, then I will print welcome Shair. Else I will print this. Wait a minute, you're not Balali. Please enter credentials again. Maybe please enter your credentials again. Okay, now what will happen here? I will keep asking username and password unless it is username is Balali and password is Rashad. Okay. Asadıfı. Wait a minute, you are not. So it asks me again my username. Asks me again if I welcome Shai. Okay. Anyone has any questions? So this while like this infinite loops sometimes might be useful in such cases where where you just want to keep asking something. For when we will talk about networks, actually we will also see this while true over network. For example, I want to receive some data from network. I want to wait for it like indefinitely. I just because I don't know when message will come. I want to listen to message that comes over network. In such cases, people use while true, just like constantly check, is there a new data? Is there a new data? Is there new data? This is actually how your like all real-time messaging systems work. For example, let's say I open WhatsApp and I wait for some message. But like I open WhatsApp, WhatsApp actually waits for message. Actually, even if I don't open WhatsApp, it consistently waits for messages over network. It can be done something like while loop, while true, it's infinite loop. Okay. Okay. Let's maybe do something like as we talked before, we can check if number is prime or not. Okay, let's write function to check if number is prime or not. Let's say user and gives me a number. Okay, I want to print some output if this number is prime. Like in either case, I will print something. If number is prime number, I will print yes. If number is not prime number, I will print false. Okay, so to check prime numbers, I need to add, for example, let's say user entered 6. Like in the very basic terms, I can check if number is prime or not by dividing it to some numbers. For example, let's maybe check 9. Okay, let's say user gave me 9 and I want to check if 9 is prime number or not. I will divide it by 2. Is this divisible by 2? No. So I will divide it by 3. Is this divisible by 3? Okay, so it means it's not prime. Maybe let's check something like some number that I will always keep checking. 8, 11, not what? 13. Okay, 13 is prime. Let's also check this. Okay, let's user gave me 13. 7 would also suffice. Okay, I divided by 2. Is this divisible by 2? No. Is this divisible by 3? No. Is this divisible by 4? No. Is this divisible by 5? No. 6? No. 7? No. 8? No. 9? No. 10? No. 11? No. 12? No. I want to check if it's divisible by itself because every number is divisible by itself. It doesn't make sense to check them. But like the main thing here is I will have some numbers that I will always divide this number. Okay. For this reason, I need a loop, some kind of loop, just to not to do it by hand. Okay. Is this clear how we are going to do it? I will just get the number and divide it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's divisible by any of them, it's not prime. How can we do this? I will create a number which is divisor. We will call it divisor. It's 2. While divisor is less than number, okay, while 2 is less than maybe 13, let's say. I will add 1 to divisor. Okay, let's just print what happens. Divisor starts from 2, and we keep adding 1 to it as long as it's less than given number. Let's say given number is 13. Let's say given number is 13, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like we don't check division by 1 or division by 13 because every number is divisible by 1 in itself. If I enter, let's say 21, I will print like from 2 to 20. Is this clear for everybody? Okay, how can we check if a number is divisible by another number? Can you use any thing that we learned yesterday? I mean, last lecture. What? Yes, if what will I write to the condition? If number. No, I want to check, for example, if let's say just very basic case. I want to check is 4 is divisible by 2.
The number is always divided into 2.
How can I check it?
Let's
You remember modulus operator, right? I will divide this number to this number. If the result is 0, it means there isn't any remainder. It means it's divisible. If I like divide it by 3, like if this number is divisible by 3, the result will be 0 because of this modulus operator. Modulus operator will always give us the remainder. Let's create a number. Is divisible equals. So number is, we divide this given number to our divisor, whatever. If it gives me 0, it means this is divisible. So if number is divisible by this divisor, whatever it is, 2, 3, or 5, we break the loop. I don't want to continue checking. If this is divisible by 2, then it's not prime number. Okay, I don't want to just continue checking all the other numbers. I will print this number is not prime. Okay. Is this clear? Just by looking at it. While divisor is less than number, I add 1 to divisor, and as long as it's like, if this is divisible by any of these numbers, like any of these divisors, I just break the loop and print that this number is not prime because it's divisible by something. I enter 13. I don't get anything because I didn't specify any condition, but let's enter 12. This number is not prime. What happened here? Let's print some stuff here, okay? I will write something here that is divisible by what happens here. maybe I missed some. Yeah, I missed this part. Okay. Just let's see what happens. Is 13 divisible by 2? Is 13 divisible by 3? Is 13 divisible by 4? Blah, 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 blah. As you see, 13 is not divisible by any of them. So at last, we know that it's a prime number. But if I enter, let's say, 12, 12 is divisible by 2, so this number is not prime. Okay. At last, actually, I can print that this number is prime. Because if I finish this loop, it means I checked all numbers, and this number is not divisible by any of them. And at last, I can print that this number is prime. This number is prime. Is this clear? We can go over it again if you want. If you don't have any questions, you can actually simplify this a little bit. The reason why I gave this example, because I want to introduce you another loop, which is called for loop. So in Python, we have two kinds of loops, while loop and for loop. For some cases, it's much more cleaner to write for loop. How for loop works, for example, let's say, I'm just commenting all these lines, let's say, let's ignore them for now. For loop is something like, for example, for number, let's say, divisor in range to 13. What will it do? It will start from 2 and it will stop at 12, not 13, because 13 is not included here. It just prints the numbers. But before I don't have to add 1 to this divisor, because for loop will do this automatically. We'll add this, we'll check it, we'll add this, we'll check it, we'll add 1, we'll check it, we'll add 1, we'll check it. We can do it like this, okay? And if I print this like 2 to the 12, like I don't have to like write while loop, or I don't have to add 1 to divisor, because for loop will do it automatically for me. For example, for finding a prime number, it's much more cleaner to write it with for loop. For example, I will write a for loop in range. It will start from 2 and it will stop at number. Okay, I don't have to add 1 to it. It's just I removed a few lines, so break will work with for loop. It's same. This number is not prime. This number is prime. Yeah, because you don't have to print it. If we stopped here, we don't have to print it. This is actually a bug. Do you know what's a bug? Yeah.
Some kind of glitch.
Yeah, some kind of error, maybe logical error in the program. Actually, this is, I think in history, that there was a actual bug inside the computer that was preventing computer to work. That's why, like, it's like convention. It's the word stayed from these historical reasons. People call it bug whenever you have an error. Okay. Is this clear? I hope I didn't complicate you a lot. Clear? Okay. If you want, we can have just 5 minutes break to just think about it. So basically, whenever you write a program, you will handle with such kind of things, loops, conditions, logical operators. Actually, this almost all the programming is all about is just loops and conditions and functions. Functions we haven't talked about, but we will touch the functions today. I just want to talk about a little bit, just some utility with strings. When we print some strings, we sometimes want to format them. For example, as you saw, for example, I want to print this, for example, as I did it before, divisor number is divisible by, I have to convert numbers to strings because if I want to concatenate them, divisible by divisor. So actually this is a little bit pain, just to add all these plus operators to convert numbers to strings. Python enables us to format strings. If you want to format strings, you can do it like this. For example, I can add letter F in front of the string, for example, F, and then I write the string. This just means formatted string, okay? And in this case, I can write, for example, number inside this curly braces. I can like add this number, which is an expression. This number, this is, let's say, for example, is number divisible by divisor. Okay, this is actually easier to write it because of this formatting. Is number divisible by 2, so that it's less pain to write. Like it's really hard to write all this plus and then converting strings. In this way, it's more cleaner and easier to write it. And inside this curly braces, you can have any Python expression. This can be, for example, number multiplied by 5, 5 multiplied by 10, and like any expression that you can think of. Doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be just variable, but it's more cleaner. So strings are also, as last lecture, we talked about strings, and we said that strings are actually just an array of characters. It's just a list of characters. So we can do something with them using loops. For example, let's remove this completely. I have in strings, how to call it? Radar is one. For example, I have a string called radar. I can actually extract some characters from it. For example, if I get this string and I add like some of these brackets, like I can write some number inside these brackets. For example, I write 0. It means print not the whole string, just print the character at the 0's index. Like indexing in programming will most of the time will start from 0. When you start to count, you will always start from 0. So this 0's character in the string is R. And this is A. Then, for example, 1 is A, 2 is D, 3 is A, and 4 is R. Okay, if I print this, I will get R because fourth character is R. If I print 5, we don't have fifth character, so it will give me that this index is out of the range because we don't have like fifth character. We have only 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have fifth character. We can actually do something. For example, some interesting things with this. Let's write a for loop. Let's index in range, for example, which starts from 0 and ends at 5. Just remember that range, when we use for loop with range, like 5 is not included, like the last one is not included. If I write 4, 4 is not included. This start is included, last one is not included. What?
What is like that? Doing math, you're using the other brackets.
Yeah, but in actually this range is because this range is a function. We will talk about functions. You cannot use it like something like this. It's not possible. Yeah, it's just you call this function and you give some parameters, arguments to this function. If I get example string.index, I will actually just print each character. I will print R, then I will print A, I will print D, I will print A, and I will print R. Radar. Just all of them on the new line. We can do something like more interesting things with loops. Let's try to do. For example, let's say I get some number n from my user. Enter an integer. Okay. I start from 0, I go to n. I want to print some stars. Like I just want to print some stars. Okay. Let's say something like this. For example, let's say I want to print something like this. Just want to print these pound signs, 4 of them, like 4 columns and 4 rows. Let's say I want to go from 0 to 4. For now, I will ignore this. So I can write actually 2 for loops inside. Let's call them I and let's call it J. And I will print I and J. What will be printed here? Can you just guess? So I have 2 nested loops. They are inside each other. What nested loop does, when this outer loop does 1 iteration, this inner loop will do 4 iterations. Yeah, 4, yes, 4, I think. 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Actually, as I print this I and J, you will see the result. For example, the outer loop is I and inner loop is J. Okay. When I print them, like outer loop, when outer loop does 1 iteration, the inner loop goes from 0 to 3. Like it does full iteration, it does all of them from 0 to 3. And in the second iteration of the outer loop, inner loop again goes from 0 to 3. In the third iteration of the outer loop, inner loop again goes from 0 to 3. And the last iteration, inner loop again goes to 0, from 0 to 3. I hope I didn't complicate you. Is this any questions to clarify it? It's just simply when this loop does one iteration, inner loop does all of the iterations from 0 to 4. Okay. That's why we did see like inner loop is still at like outer loop I is still at 0. Maybe let's print it like this. I equals to I and j equals to j. When I is 0, j starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, and I becomes 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and I becomes 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, I becomes 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And when outer loop does one iteration, inner loop does like 4 iterations. This makes sense because like inside for loop, whatever is inside for loop will happen 4 times, right? So this inner loop will loop 4 times from 0 to 4, 0 to 4, 0 to 4. And if I can print something like, for example, let's print something, this signs will be like, let's see, when the inner loop finishes, I print some dashes. When inner loop again finishes, I print some dashes. Okay, like this loop finishes from 0 to 4, I print some dashes. When this loop finishes again, I print some dashes. When this loop finishes again, I print some dashes again and again. Okay. Using this, actually, we can do something interesting. For example, let's print some pound signs like this. And at the end, we will print nothing. Okay. If I want to print those pound signs, I can do it like this, actually. Like when outer loop does one iteration, we print 4 pounds. And the reason why I added this here is because print function will automatically add new line. For example, let's remove this. By default, it's like this. Print function always ends with new line by default, like adds new line. You see, it adds new line. If I don't want to end with new line, I just want this pound signs be like one after another. I will have to print it like this. We can also get this from user input, maybe. For example, if user says 13, I will have 13 rows and 13 columns. If user says 5, I will have 5 rows and 5 columns. Questions? We can go over it again if it is too complicated. Which part is more complex? We can just 6 and 7. Did you understand this for loops? Like when it works when they are nested. Okay. If you understood the for loop, the other part is really easy. Because let's say how can we explain more clearly? Okay. I iterate 4 pound signs. I print 4 pound signs without anything else. Okay. And I print star from here. Let's do it like this. What happens here? When I start iteration with the outer loop, the inner loop will print n number of pounds, right? Then when this loop finishes, we will print 1 star. N number of pounds, 1 star. N number of pounds and 1 star. N number of pounds and 1 star. Let's see. Let's say n is 5. 5 pounds, 1 star. 5 pounds, 1 star. As you see, like 5 pounds, 1 star. 5 pounds, 1 star. 5 pounds, 1 star, and that's it. Is this clear? Okay. And in Python, I want this pound signs to be next to each other, not just on the new line. In Python, print function automatically adds a new line at the end of this string. That's why these strings are like printed in the new line. So if I don't want it to end with new line, I will say that don't end with new line, but end with just empty string, empty character. If I wanted to end with new line, I will do this like this, but by default, what print does, it just adds this new line at the end of this line, but I don't want a new line. Right now, what will happen? We will still have this pound signs and star, pound signs and star, but this pound signs will be next to each other because we don't have new line when we print pound. Like pound signs, then star, pound signs, then star, pound signs, then star. Okay. And I don't want this star, I just remove it. I just want to print something like, I don't want to actually print anything. It's just enough. 5, it will have like 5 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds. Why we have 5 rows here? If I add, for example, 3, I will have 3 rows because these pounds will be printed 3 times. And basically, like the most basic way to understand it, the outer loop controls the rows, inner loop controls the columns. And so I can add, for example, n multiplied by 2, maybe just for example, we will have a lot of rows. See, we have 8 rows right now. Like outer loop controls the rows. Inner loop controls columns. For example, I can have 20 columns, like 20 pounds side by side. 20 pounds side by side. I can have 3 rows and 20 columns. 3 rows, 20 columns. I don't know. 20 rows, 3 columns. Is this more clear now? Okay. So I want the same number of rows and same number of columns. This needs to be same. So I will get n from user and I will write n here. And if I think that these pound size are too close to each other, then I will add just one space here just to separate them. If you do this, actually, you can do some more interesting patterns with this. For example, I can draw some triangle like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At last, it will be a triangle. Right now, when we print pounds, I print n number of pounds. But I want to print 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, 4, then 5. How can I do this? I can just add I here. I plus 1 actually. Let's start from 1, not from 0. It should be okay. it will be something like this. For example, I is 0, so I printed 0 number of pounds. I is 1, I printed 1 number of pounds. I is 2, I printed 2 number of pounds. And I is 3 pounds. I is 4. I wrote I here because I increases. I starts from 1 and then goes later. Okay, we can actually write I plus 1 here because we had this empty space here. Something like this. People actually do some strange things with these patterns. For example, let's say Python star patterns. Maybe we can see some good examples. Now, people do some strange things like this. This is easy, we did it already. I don't know, some people draw, this is tree, New Year tree. New Year tree, I don't know, something like this, something like this. Like you can just use your imagination and use just your calculations and print some fancy patterns with it. Okay. Do you have any questions related to for loops? So to get a little bit practice, what I do, I recommend you to open an account at codewars.com. You already have. You can go to codewars.com and of course you will do it at home, but you can, if you have GitHub account, you can log in with GitHub. Let me sign out. Just go to codewars.com, log in. You can create an account. You can directly sign in with GitHub if you have GitHub account. Then you can start from, for example, I select my programming language as Python, and I want to, I want to learn fundamentals. Let's say I want to learn fundamentals. I click train, and I start just learning some stuff, pull to Word. And you will have some, function to write here, and you will have some test cases here. For example, it only has 2 test cases. Just start from basics and go to the next ones. I will try to, at home, I will try to pick some exercises and send you, so you can do it till the next lecture. You don't have to write them anywhere, just you can write it directly on the platform and execute. If it passes all the test cases when you run this test, then you are totally fine. Actual test cases are here and they are open. For example, when it gives true, you need to print yes. If it gives false, you need to print no. It's very easy question. We will continue. Okay. Just to be very clear about codewars.com, we need to look at one last topic today. Next lecture, we will have time to practice. Maybe we can do some practice at the class, during the class. I don't know. You can do the Codewars thing at home. I will try to send you some exercises. Okay. Let's continue. What's the main purpose? Just do some exercises and just practice. There are some other sites like HackerRank. There is also LeetCode, but they are more difficult to solve. Codewars is easier for beginners because it has some fundamental tasks. It will give you very childish tasks that you can start with. If you start with HackerRank or LeetCode, you might get demotivated because you can't do them. Yeah, people use LeetCode to prepare for coding interviews in big tech companies. You can use it later. Okay, for the last topic of today, I won't go deep into functions, but let's see what the functions are. So we use the print function, right? Function is just block of code that you execute. I give print to it, whatever it does, I don't really care, but it prints me this string on standard output. And I can write my own functions from scratch, do something, I don't know, not to repeat some stuff, right? I can write my own functions. For example, to write function in Python, you can use def keyword, just means define. For example, I can write def hello. So I define a function which is called hello. I can also call it salam, just for case. We need this brackets after the function. We also need this colon after the function. And this place we call function body. Okay, can print salam also. This is just a function. I can call this function as like many times as I want, and it will print me salam also. Okay, this function is just some bunch of code that you write, then you reuse, just not to repeat all the codes. For example, we had example with is prime function. We can look at this. Let's say the last lecture what we did, we had this function, for example. Let's say I have a function called print roots, A, B, C. Last lecture we did some calculations with quadratic equation, for example. What this function does, gets some parameters A, B, and C, calculates them and prints something. Okay, I can call print roots, for example, with 1, 2, 3. I can call it with what we had here last lecture, 264.5, 264.5. Print roots. Like this, I can reuse this function. This equation has imaginary root. This equation has single root. The equation has 2 real roots. Okay, function is just a bunch of code that you collect. You keep them together, then you can reuse them later. Function might have parameters, so we call them parameters. And when we give them, we have to give in the same order. For example, 1 is A, 2 is B, and 3 is C. You can, if you want the different order, for example, you can write like this. For example, C is like, if you don't care about order, you can also write it like this. You saw this syntax in print function. For example, print for example, this end also means that this print function has a parameter called end. Okay, so because our function has parameters called A, B, and C, we can call them like this. But if I don't call this function like it, I have to like give them the exact order. Like 2 is A, 6 is B, and 4.5 is C. When we call a function, we give it arguments. Okay. When we call a function, we give it arguments. And when we define a function, we define its parameters. Like we define a function and we define what parameters it will get, it will receive. When we call it, it will give it arguments. The arguments are just real values for these parameters. And this function will do anything with just these parameters. Function can also return something. For example, let's say I print x, okay? And if I call something like 5 square 16, something like this, first prints 25 and second prints 256. Okay. Functions can also return some value. In this, when function returns value, we can assign it to a variable. For example, result equals to something. If I print this result, you will see that result is a null, because this function gets number 5 and prints 25, doesn't return anything. But we can also write, for example, we have return keyword. If I write it like this, return keyword, it means that this function gets some input and returns some value. Like gets 5, returns 25. And what I have here, this function will get 5, will return 25, and 25 will be assigned to my result variable. Okay. So this is what return function does. If let's say we return to my CodeWars page. In CodeWars, I picked Python and I picked fundamentals. I started training. Okay. As you see, it gave me a function here, double integer, something like this. And also it gives me problem definition. You need to double the integer and return it, okay? My function is called double integer. They gave me an integer and they want me to double it. How can I double it? I can just multiply it by 2 and return the value. And whatever I return from this value, this CodeWars website will check this return value and validate if it's correct or not. If I go down here and click test, you will see that they had 5 test cases and all of them passed. For example, test passed, test passed, test passed. Let's say if I don't return anything, or I multiply by 3 instead of 2. If I test again, you will see that like for one case, maybe it was 0 case, that's why it passed. But for example, they expected 6, but I gave them, no, they expected 4, but I gave them 6. They expected 8, but I gave them 12, and that's. But if I have the correct result, for example, multiplied by 2, then I test it, you will see that all of test cases are passing. Attempt will submit your result, and excellent. You may take your time, comment your solution. You can actually look at the discussions here. There should be discussions. Yeah, there is a discussions tab. Where is the discussions for this problem? Yeah, there is a discuss button. You can click discuss here. Then there are some discussions going on here. You can discuss with other people. There's description, test cases. Yeah. There are also solutions. You can look at the solutions if you really can't find you can find the solution. You can see there is some strange solution here. Instead of multiplying by 2, they did something like this for some reason. I think it works, maybe, I don't know. They just add and subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract. Yeah, they get the result, that's it. For some reason they do this, I don't know. This is, they multiply 2 by I, they just right shift, they just add I to I, they just multiply, they do some interesting shit here, and that's it. Okay. Okay, so at home, what you are supposed to do, I will, for today's lecture, the main topic is to understand while loop and for loop, and logical operators were easy, like, but I will send you some articles about them. Just to read something or to watch videos, you can go to like Python Program Viz. Yes, Program Viz. This is a good website. They have nice design, but they might have a lot of ads. Yes, there are some stuffs that you can go over. So, for example, what we had today, we had flow control. Where is flow control? Yes, flow controls, we have Python if else. They also have videos, they also have examples. For example, Python for loop. What's this? Add. You will go, you can watch video if you love Indian accent. You can just read if you hate Indian accent. Yeah, they also have some visualizations. Try to check them. So the main homework is I will send some articles from this website. You have to read them. Also open an account as codewars.com, and you will, yes, I will try to send some exercise from there. You can solve. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for today's. I've talked about functions, but you don't have to read them today if you are like main topic here is loops, conditions. Just try to understand them as good as possible. For functions, we will talk about functions for the rest of the course. So you don't have to read them for today if you don't want. Yes, I think we discussed a lot of things today, so we can finish. If you have any questions, we can continue discussing.